Hello, we are back with another one of our fun little Let's Watch videos that accompany these episodes of the Fallout TV show. We are now on episode 6, so we've got 2 more. I believe there's only 8 episodes in this season. We're on episode 6, titled The Other Player, a clear reference to what they referred to in a past episode. I think the exact previous episode with the conversation between Robert House and Cooper Howard, right? Referring to there being some other mysterious player when it comes to the end of the world, the doomsday clock, as it were, ticking. Anyhow, immediately we start with some folks in a Vault-Tec meeting with burgers. They're just chowing down on hamburgers. I think this is just like, you know, this is just Americans being American, just eating hamburgers, right? Right. I think that this is sort of the prototypical ideal that people have of like Americans, even during some more fonder points in time. I mean, obviously right now, not too fond of a point in time for international relations. It's pretty bad. But you know, in better times under different leadership, this is just sort of like how people would see us. It's just like chilling out, eating hamburgers, and thinking about 5 or 10 megaton bomb explosions for our ad campaigns that are meant to drive fear into the hearts of men, in order to increase sales and revenue and people signing up for tickets into these vaults. Anyway, we get a cool little look at as well at I think one of the original Vault-Tec, now colorized in full incredible glorious color, the Fallout 1 accompanying scene that showed like the slice down the middle of a vault as it occupies a mountain. I'm pretty sure that's artwork from Fallout 1's manual, or maybe the back of the box, something along those lines. We see that on like a poster. We get to see another water chip. Dude, they love showing us this water chip. Holy shit. And you know what? I like seeing it. I like seeing the water chip. It's fun. But it is getting a little long in the tooth for how long we have to see this water chip. But I guess, I don't know, do regular audiences need to keep like how dumb is the average person who's watching this? How much are they getting, how much are they sort of absorbing of this information, like that they need to keep getting reminded of the water chip and like, oh yeah, in Lucy's vault, the water, don't forget, right? Because, you know, there's a lot of different plot points going on at once. But shit, I don't know. It wasn't that tough for people in like Game of Thrones during its prime seasons and all of that. During some of its best seasons, people were able to keep up with a lot of the different plot points. Maybe people weren't able to keep up with a lot of the names, but the plot points at the very least. I don't know. Anyway, we get also a hilarious, fun splash screen, sort of in the same vein as in past episodes where it was like Legion, NCR. This time it says Barb in all caps, which I thought was just very funny. I mean, you know, her name is Barbara, but it is funny to just see Barb in all big caps like that. I don't know. I don't think that was meant to be a joke, but maybe it was. Maybe it was for perverts like me. And it worked on me. Anyway, we get to find out more about the Automated Man. Folks who have played Fallout 4, maybe originally we were all getting hyped up thinking like, oh shoot, the Automated Man, this could mean like synths, you know, synthetic men, synthetic people who are robotic. But instead it means that these people are automated. The people have been automated through the chip, the mind control chip that has been inserted into their neck, into their brain stem, I assume, or into their nervous system in some form or function. I don't know. I'm not running Vault-Tec's R&D. Anyway, we get a fun little line from not Real House, not Justin Theroux's house, but the body double, which I don't know. I enjoy how they're doing this. And at the same time as well, it lets you have the character House sort of be in your episode without having to give a paycheck to Justin Theroux every time you want Robert House to just have like a small appearance. It's kind of ingenious, right? You can have your cake and eat it too. You know, think of it from like a budget and production standpoint, and it's kind of ingenious the way in which they get to do this. It's very clever. Anyway, the way in which he speaks here makes it seem like he too is also not fully privy to a lot of the goings on, but he just plays his cards close to his chest in the house. But he does that and makes it seem like, yeah, I know more than I'm letting on. But in truth, he doesn't actually know. He doesn't actually know the truth of anything. He's just being vague to make it seem like he is intelligent, that he's in the know on this stuff, when in truth he's just as in the dark as the rest of us, because he's the body double. Regardless, he does let loose a fun little quote where he says like, yeah, I've been such and such. He's like, yeah, I've been trying to make all my machines, my robots, more lifelike, but this will do the reverse of that. This is the other way around, you know, wherein he's going to make people more robotic. The automated man. Anyway, we get another cut, a briefer cut, granted, to seeing Cooper Howard as the Ghoul in post-war, post-apocalyptic times in Freeside on that pole. He is stuck on the pole, and he's starting to go feral, which seems to imply that the more grievous body wounds a non-feral ghoul receives, like the more damage they take, the more likely they are to enrage and go feral. Is this the case? Like it becomes like a survival instinct or whatever. The beast comes out when you start to lose control because you've taken too much damage or whatever. Either way, he's really stuck on that pole. It's very gruesome. He needs some of his serum. He's trying to reach for it, but he can't quite. Dog meat shows up, tries to give him the serum, but dog meat is a fucking dog that doesn't know about this shit, you know? He clearly, Cooper Howard doesn't know how to like hold E and command dog meat to bring over the vial, because instead he misses and dog meat brings over his hat and he's like, not the fucking hat. Anyway, we get another close-up of shot of Cooper Howard as we get a very fun and enjoyable transition. I felt like the cinematography in this episode was like a little bit of a step above some of the past episodes, right? Like we were sort of like knocking on the door of more prestige drama with some of these shots. Am I incorrect in thinking that, especially with like some of the later scenes with Hank and Lucy and the pre-war stuff as well? I feel like the cinematography in this one was a little bit better than average, you know? Anyway. Regardless, we have this fun transition where it shows Cooper Howard impaled, and then it does a screen wipe over to seeing him in pre-war times just laying on a bed being stressed the fuck out after he just crashed out. He's finally confronting Barbara here for the first time that we get to see inside of the Lucky 38's hotel room that they got. He's once again, there's a fun line where he says, "Were you a monster back then or became one later?" It was very fun. She finally is faced with a lot of the fact that, like, yeah, you're kind of, what you're doing is fucked up. This is sort of a recurring theme for this episode and just maybe the show in total when it comes to a lot of the personal stories of these characters is what Thaddeus, I think, gets at later. I think, was it Thaddeus? No, it's Reg. It's Reg as part of the inbreeding incest group or whatever. Speaking on the fact that, like, yeah, we put ourselves in front of others. We put ourselves ahead of others and we benefited from it. You know, this isn't too far removed from what Barb is doing here. You know, these are sort of parallels between these different stories and all of that. Anyway, which, you know, we sort of see this all over the place in the show, you know. Like I said, it's a very much a recurring theme. And then we get another cut over to Lucy, who is inside of the big mysterious Vault-Tec managerial building. Where could this be? What is going on with this? I have no idea. It really seems like it's somewhere in Vegas. If I had to guess, it's in the remains of Vault 21, right? There's the whole mystery of how they concreted over it. We just recently came across it that line in our recent New Vegas playthrough. That would be my best guess as to where it's at. It's in the other concreted over part of the hotel vault on the strip. Anyhow, Lucy wakes up in a Vault-Tec-style room, which I remember when we first saw this scene in one of the early previews, like weeks ago now. I thought that this was Vault 21, I think it is, the hotel vault on the strip. I thought that this would be it, that she wakes up in there, but well, maybe it still is, maybe, right? Let's not write it off just yet. Maybe it's true. Maybe it really is one and the same. Regardless, more so meaningful to us, the viewer right now, she is waking up in the same exact facility that Hank is in because he has taken her captive. Now, also in here, very shockingly, is she's sort of sneaking around, slunking around a corner, and you see a couple of Caesar's Legion's men. Right, a couple legionaries chumming it up down the hallway, and she's getting ready to try to KO one with a fire extinguisher, I believe, and they notice her, turn around, and they're like, oh, hey, how's it going? Right, and they're very chipper and kind, very much unlike the deranged lunatics that she had ran into before. Very mysterious, and it becomes immediately obvious that these folks have been chipped, and as she goes into the other room, into a big office room with a bunch of desk workers, holy shit, Hank has been working. Since he got the chicken fucker guy chipped, Hank has chipped a lot of people from just the wasteland. And, of course, Hank sees it differently, but we'll get into that later. Frankly, the way in which they all sort of worked in tandem, almost like a hive mind, I could not help but think of another recent show that I had watched and really, really enjoyed, Vince Gilligan's Pluribus. Really, really love that. Anyway. We get another shot. We go over into a room which is clearly marked simulation. It's a simulated room meant to simulate like the kitchen, the home of your sort of prototypical 50s, 60s nuclear family in the United States. Hank is in there. This is very, we're delving into the realm of getting some subtext for the TV show where, it's not just the trappings and dressings that in here that are a simulation, that are like a simulacrum, a facsimile, if you will, a false version of what they really are. But everything that goes on in this room for this scene is that. It's all fake. It's all fake, trying to pretend to be something that it isn't. It's a simulation in a sense. Hank is in here preparing some sort of, dinner or lunch or whatever. He's got a little tray of walnuts and a book out that him and Lucy were talking about before and didn't quite have the chance. There's this very peculiar and odd meeting between them. And Hank is sort of talking. It's a bit of a tense situation, but Hank still has faith that he has control of it and that he has won Lucy over, and that all he needs to do is say the correct combination of words to her, and that will cause her to, become his doting daughter once more, as things had been previously in the vault. However, Lucy quickly seizes this opportunity and pulls some scissors on Hank and has him at his throat. Now, at first, I think this is very critical. This is very critical to some of the character writing and development of Lucy, is that Hank even, of course, they go so far as to make note of it. Hank makes note of it. She pulls the scissors and then immediately spins off into her corporate spiel, her corporate fed lines about what to do. She begins following Vault-Tec protocol, saying that I'm going to bring you to justice. You're going to meet the fucking Vault security and the overseer, and you're going to stand before for your crimes, for the bombing of Shady Sands. The council will see to you and to see that justice is dispensed. Lucy still believes in these trappings. Despite everything that has happened to her, she still has faith in this institution that has been erected by Vault-Tec. She still is adhering to protocol. And this is what Hank is referring to when he says, "I thought for a second that the wasteland had changed you, but I can see that it hasn't," right? She is still, in some ways, a little brainwashed, right? She's still a little bit brainwashed. She hasn't yet woken up to the idea that, oh, all of this, we're just going along with what the corporation wants. We're going along with the protocol as it's meant to be. The protocol, which was set up by people like Hank, in the sense that the system is built from the ground up to benefit someone like him. Just as we had seen sort of this corrupt system at play in an episode prior with Chet and Steph, wherein Zach Cherry's character Woody, remember, went to report to Steph, and she was just like, "Oh yeah, you can report all of this stuff to me because I'm the overseer." And Zach Cherry's character Woody was like, "But I never thought about reporting the overseer to the overseer." And she was like, "Yeah, that just makes it really easy, right?" That's a more like obvious version of what's going on here, but this is meant to be like a mirror, a parallel of what happened there, wherein Vault-Tec is making the rules, and thus they can break them as they see fit, and people just think that, yeah, this is just how it's meant to be. They have set out and defined the terms, and thus everyone is following them. This is why Hank, after she recites this protocol, he realizes, I have not lost control of this situation. No matter what Lucy does here, I am still in control of this. I will simply appease her and try to make it seem as if she has gotten the better of me, and I will use this as a learning opportunity. I will teach my daughter a lesson, right? And the lesson is, I am in control. Vault-Tec is in control. Hank surrenders. He offers up, it's a very strangely discordant scene, in a bunch of scenes, right? This continues on, where he offers up some handcuffs to her for him to be put in, right? He is a prisoner, but she is really the prisoner here, It's a very fun juxtaposition. Anyway, we have another scene where we cut over to Max and Thaddeus, finally. We've skipped over hearing from them for a bit. Where they're in a dune desert, I assume somewhere around, around Area 51, as they're escaping that. They abandon their power armor because it has a tracker in it, which I think, maybe is an allusion to some of the power armor tracking stuff that exists in Fallout 4, which I think that was more just like a mechanical way in which the game would just help you out on a mechanical level. I don't think there was any actual plot point about it, but there's no reason that the Brotherhood couldn't put a tracker inside of a set of power armor. There's no reason. Anyway, Thaddeus immediately brings up that he was expecting that they were going to sell the cold fusion diode that they have for a shitload of money. We go into another fun and interesting debate of morality, wherein Max shows that he is similar to Lucy. He is very naive about the state of the world. I think one of the big interesting things here is that all three of our protagonists are naive about the state of the world, right? Naivete is a common expression here for our protagonists, and sort of the way in which it is eroded, and you give into, you either adhere to your naivete or you hide it away with cynicism, which the ghoul does. Because in the pre-war scenes, he is riddled with being fairly naive, especially in season 1. A lot of the season 1 stuff is about how naive he was with regards to like Vault-Tec's plans, as well as other corporations that he has worked with and seen. Which I think, the lesson here is that this degree of like hyper naivety isn't good, nor is the inverse of it, where you just have like ultra cynicism about everything. Neither are doing our protagonists any favors here. Anyway, nonetheless, Thaddeus comes up with this line. He's like, "Oh yeah, you want to give the CF diode, the cold fusion diode, to someone good? Well, name a good person, right? And Maximus is like, well, how about the girl that I met? I don't even think he knows her name. I can't remember. He doesn't say Lucy, but he's referring, of course, to Lucy. And then Thaddeus has this banger of a quote, which is the point of a lot of this stuff. Whenever someone says that there are systemic issues holding people back, this is basically what Thaddeus is referring to here. He doesn't realize he's referring to it, and nor does Max, but clearly whoever wrote this knew exactly what the fuck they were on, because Thaddeus says, well, I'd be a good person too if I was born on a pile of food, if I had shelter, protection. He goes on and on about like several things where like, yeah, sure, I'd be good too if I had a loving family and everything. And yeah, that's the point, right? That's the point of society and all of that, is that generally people, if they have their needs met and all of that, they're very likely to just be like good, kind-hearted people. It is hardship that tends to drive folks into being kind of shitty to one another, you know? This gets at the heart of like the resource wars of Fallout and all of that. I think a lot of the writing in this episode is pretty damn clever. Like I had mentioned before in, I think the previous episode, the previous Let's Watch, correlating to the previous episode of the TV show. If we continue following this pattern, which it feels like we are, the latter half of this season is going to have super good like writing. It's going to be very enjoyable, and so far that is holding up. Right, so far I'm really enjoying the latter half of the season, which I think is not too dissimilar from season 1. The only difference is that because a lot of those episodes all came out at once, it felt more like a blur. Whereas here we have this sort of weekly situation where we're allowed to dwell and sort of think and speculate on what's coming up next. You definitely do recognize that, like, okay, not every one of these episodes is as juicy as the others. Some are just like very fan servicey, and it's just like, okay, we're just going from point A to point B, all of that shit, right? We're getting into the meat and potatoes here. It's very enjoyable. We also learn, I think for the first time, that Thaddeus is from the Boneyard, a location which appeared in Fallout 1. As well, you know, Max reiterates that he's from Shady Sands. And then we cut back over in the next scene to Cooper still on that pole. And he is really he is ferreling the hell out. He is going buck wild on this pole. He's reciting these sorts of almost affirmations to himself of who he is as a person, which is very fascinating because it juxtaposes very nicely with his whole identity as the ghoul, as this sort of, what would you call it? This fake person that he made up with as, I would assume, a coping mechanism for dealing with all the shit he has dealt with for literally hundreds of years at this point, wherein he has sort of taken on the role of one of his characters. He is this sort of hyper cynical, divorced from the kindness possible in the world and the plight of other people, and is decided to put himself and his family in some ways above everything else. And he tries to let that be his driving force, right? I think that this is in some way important here in this specific scene, where he is trying to summon power, summon strength to pull himself off of this pole that he is impaled on through his stomach, through his torso, his abdomen, whatever, right? He's reciting, who am I really? I'm not just this fucking cowboy. I'm a fucking actor. I'm Cooper Howard. I have a daughter named Janie Howard. He thinks of this. He tries to think of them and put them first and foremost in his mind. And he almost reaches the top of the pole. It's almost enough, this inner strength that he has gathered. It's almost enough for him to save himself. But at the end of the day, it's not enough. It's not enough to put yourself and your own interests first. He falls back down. It is really disgusting. He cries out in pain. There is blood everywhere. There's squelching and scorching and scorching all over the place. It's fucking gross. And then someone else shows up. Someone else in the dead of night shows up. An enormous lumbering figure shows up with the strength of 1,000 men, reaches over and snaps the pole in two and just yoinks him off and yoinks him off and then takes him to a mysterious Adobe style building somewhere else outside of Vegas. Where could this be? Who could this be? Well, it's for folks who know Fallout, this is very likely a super mutant, right? This is especially if at first you have played these games and you were like, okay, is this a super mutant? The scene where they go by the like oil barrel brazier or whatever, and there's like a hanging net bag of meat. Immediately, anybody who has played a fucking Fallout game in the 3D era will see that bag of meat and be like, oh, this is a super mutant. I have asked the question and now the show is answering back, right? Obviously, for folks who don't know Fallout and are watching this, they're like, what the fuck is going on? All right, and then we get another fun cut into the incredible incest club, which is being operated by Reg, I believe it is. Shit is popping off there. We finally get the teased dance montage. It turns out that it was to Uranium Fever, as Reg himself is sort of in a fever state, playing on the piano, playing Uranium Fever. It's very fun and enjoyable little musical number montage. They even like narrow the camera lens and all of that. It's fun. It's fun. They ultimately get busted by Betty. It's revealed that Reg the whole time, he's an absolute clown. He's been playing Mary Had a Little Lamb. He was just imagining having like a flight of fancy. We get as well this scene where Reg is speaking with Betty, and he's speaking from a place of ignorance and idiocy, but he is the one who is sort of saying, you're like, yeah, well, we put our answers put themselves first, and that worked out for them. That's how we ended up here, by putting ourselves first, as he begins to decry the ruling set forth by Betty, and is like, well, fuck it, we're just gonna eat snacks and drink water, even though our water chip is busted and things are not looking good. So everybody is snacking big time. They're living La Vida Loca. They're probably running the hell through rations at a record speed. Anyway, Reg ends up, because of his more populist stance here, a lot of the other dwellers at the incest club are like, yeah, Reg is all right by me. I love Reg, and eating snacks. We find out as well that Woody, Zach Cherry's character, has mysteriously gone missing. What happened to him? What did Steph do? We don't really know. Davey has a very funny scene, the mustache guy. I fucking love the mustache guy. He's so fucking cool. But then we find out through that that Chet is getting married. He is engaged to Steph. The stakes have been raised. I don't know where the whole Chet line is going, because at this point, since the Canadian reveal, I feel like Steph is definitely like Chet and Steph are I don't know what the fuck is gonna happen with them. I don't know where this is going with them. They're an interesting duo to have in play for this, but if you told me where, like, I would have no idea what to expect next out of the two of them. It could go any number of ways. I would imagine that eventually all of these dwellers are going to have to go topside, or they're going to get FEV'd, right? Right now, that's the main situation here facing them, as we had learned last time through Norm and his character little arc. They're facing getting FEV'd. What will happen? I don't know. I don't know what's going to go on here. Anyhow, we do another cut wherein this mysterious figure, who is almost definitely a super mutant and is very rapidly revealed as such, but they mentioned that war is coming and that they need Cooper specifically healthy. We're getting into this situation where it is abominations, so super mutants and ghouls who are not feral, sort of at odds with this other force. And of course, who would that be but the Enclave? Which I think there's also an interesting parallel made previously during the more Max-centric episode with Xander looking at the ghouls and the ghoul kids and saying, like, these are abominations, right? I'm very curious how they're going to have the Brotherhood interact with the Enclave here, because they're clearly batting them up or teeing them up in very similar ways. And they do have this very similar connective tissue, right? That's one of the fun, disgusting parts of the interplay between them. You know, less so in Fallout 3 because Lion's Pride was just like the best chapter to ever exist within the Brotherhood of Steel, perhaps. Regardless, neither here nor there. The super mutant gives Cooper Howard, the ghoul, Cooper Howard, a big old block of uranium, a big old chunk of uranium, and sticks it right inside of his hole. sticks a big old glowing uranium right inside of that dude's hole. He reveals mutants versus Enclave and all of that. Cooper Howard, of course, he doesn't want to get involved in any of that. Sort of just as he was, parallels to his pre-war times 200 plus years ago, where initially he didn't want to get involved in all this mess. So, of course, he is going to get involved in all of this mess eventually, whether he likes it or not. In a similar way, in a similar vein of how he got involved in everything initially, right? He was, no matter what way you cut it, you're part of humanity. This is a problem that's going to involve you, right? You're a ghoul, dog. You are a ghoul. You are going to have to, whether you like it or not, the Enclave is going to come knocking, brother. It's not going to be good. You are part of this, whether you want to be or not. They are making it your problem. Anyhow, also, amazingly enough, we finally have the reveal of what the hell Ron Perlman was doing with regards to the TV show. We had heard some about this, like how he got like a minor role or something in the TV show before it came out. And this was it. He was this super mutant. I don't know if we know who this super mutant is. I think some folks had been wishing that he would be Marcus, but I don't know that this is Marcus. I don't know that this is Marcus. I think this is a different super mutant. This is Ron Perlman's super mutant. At least I hope so, because if we have Marcus in the show, I would very much like it to be Marcus to be voiced by the same dude who had voiced him, right? I want him voiced by Michael Dorn again, right? Anyway, he knocks out Cooper Howard because Cooper Howard is like, I'm not going to play in your reindeer games. He's like, well, we can't have you knowing where we live, right? So we have another location established with these super mutants somewhere out there chilling and doing their thing. We get another cut back to pre-war times, back to Coop and Barb having their argument, fighting with each other. She drops that there are worse people out there than me. Which is true, but Coop doesn't know any of that. So he says, who could possibly be worse than you? And the delivery, the scene between them is so fantastic. And of course, following that, we get a cut to another scene in pre-war times from Barb's perspective, wherein we're about to get an answer to that question. We see, is this for the first time that we see young Betty, or did we see young Betty in season 1? I can't remember. Either way, young Betty and Barb are in pre-war times. They get a hold of the cold fusion diode, right? And we have Barb enter an elevator. She's a little stressed out about, the end of the world and everything. It's kind of weighing on her conscience a little bit. And she's in the elevator, and in with her is the Enclave scientist. Do we have a name for this motherfucker, for Benjamin Linus? God, I don't even remember the real actor's name. It keeps going in and out of my memory his real name. I really enjoy him as an actor, but every time I see him, I immediately think Benjamin Linus, and I'm very sorry. He's a very fun and talented actor. I enjoy him a lot. Anyway, we reveal that he is the one, the Enclave is the ones, that fed her the line that the only way to guarantee results is to drop the bombs ourselves. He fed her that line, which this is an interesting thing here because, of course, he's painted as being very evil, but when Lucy encounters this guy, he doesn't seem to be too keen on the Enclave situation, right? He's a bit of a separatist. I was not expecting to see this character again. I wasn't anticipating it again. I wonder if we're going to see him show up every so often again, right? As we have more pre-war stuff involving the Enclave. But, you know, we're getting a lot more Enclave setup. Finally, we saw a decent chunk of them in season 1 and very much, like, almost nothing with regards to the Enclave here in season 2, you know? I'm very curious about a lot of this stuff here, how it's going to play out with the Enclave. I wonder if they'll mention, like, the Enclave remnants as they existed in New Vegas. I don't think so, because they were very much, like, similar to our Enclave scientist Benjamin Linus here. They very much had forsaken a lot of the ways of the Enclave themselves, you know? They were mostly just in it together. They were, as far as I remember, they weren't, like, super true believers after everything, you know? And at the very least, they were left to hang and dry, right? If we are to believe that the Enclave still exists in some form, then it stands to reason that all those remnants were ditched because, like, I don't know, who needs them anymore, right? It wouldn't be the first time, I guess, that they've done something like this. Anyway, we get more scenes here. With Cooper Howard speaking with Barb. We cut back to that argument. It's implied that the Enclave is running Vault Tech in some form, whether that be through, like, they're a proxy company, in some way they have leverage over them, or they are very directly, like, pulling the strings. You know, it is very literally Vault Tech is controlled by an Enclave operative in some form. It remains to be seen, but it could be interpreted in any number of ways, I feel. Cooper returns to the 38. I wrote with intent to kill. Turns out it's not with intent to kill. I thought he would finally make use of that, his kill serum that he was given by Moldaver. Anyhow, before we do that, we have another cut back to Lucy chilling at the Vault Tech facility with Hank. We get to see more of this weird discordance between her and Hank, wherein Hank is a prisoner, but he's not really. It's Lucy who is the prisoner here. He's just pretending. Lucy takes Hank through the desk workers again, and Hank, they all sort of, like, look at this situation like, oh no, what's happening with Hank? We like Hank. Why does Lucy, this character, why does this person have scissors to his neck and all of that? And he's like, don't worry, it's fine, everybody, don't worry, because he's the one in charge. He's the one in charge. Even more, they keep alluding to this even more, wherein Hank says, oh yeah, let's go this way. And she obeys. Lucy goes along with Hank. She's like, okay, Dad, we'll go this way. You are my prisoner. And then he says, just remember, Lucy, you're the boss. Right? We get this fun little bit here. They roll out literally on chairs. A couple old dudes who are captives. They are both representatives of Caesar's Legion and the NCR. And we get a fun little freaky moral play wherein Hank wants to teach Lucy a lesson. He wants to continue manipulating and grooming her to be the type of daughter and to share his ideals, right? Wherein they're both chipped, but the chips haven't been activated. What needs to be done is a big red button must be pushed. And so, to show exactly what Hank has in mind, we've been building to this. This is perhaps the most obvious way in which it could be shown. The NCR and Legion, they don't like each other. These two dudes, they get into a huge fight. The Legionary almost chokes out and kills Lucy. Hank gets a little worried, but he lets her dance very close to the fire. This is an important lesson, you know. All along, you know, Hank is watching back. Hank was never in any real danger. He was the one pulling the strings here. He was in control. And thus, we see the Legionary begin to hammer, literally, into the head of the NCR dude. Lucy wants the violence to stop. She doesn't know how to get it to stop immediately. But, of course, Hank has a manufactured solution. They've already been chipped. He already decided in this whole situation, this whole simulation, right, from the get-go, this entire thing has been manufactured. It's the perfect situation to unveil to her that this is the way to move forward. That in order to get these two to stop, he's already chipped them. Lucy, just press the big red button. It's the only way. The only way to ensure peace is through complete control. And she presses the button, and the chip activates, and there is instant peace between the two of them, and they get super chummy, and it's happily ever after. Anyhow, following that, we get another cut to Cooper with young Hank as he is carrying around the briefcase and all of that with what turns out to be a mysterious gun, which I think we'd actually seen before, but I had forgotten about it. Coop knocks him out through a devious concoction of booze, and Hank, he's KO'd completely. Cooper goes through his little, what do you call it, his case, his attaché case that's been handcuffed to himself, and inside is the CF diode, the cold fusion diode applicator gun, which, like I said, I think we saw this in season 1, got injected into his neck, and then Barb shows up and uses it to suck it out of his neck. So now the cold fusion diode in pre-war times is within the hands of Barb and Coop. Anyway, we get another cut to Dogmeat, who is showing up to take a peculiar hat to Max and Thaddeus, which implies, hey, these characters are very close to each other now. And true enough, they are. Max and Thaddeus bumble their way over into a building near a school, and they find Cooper there, somehow has avoided death. And then finally we get our credits scene as these characters encounter. And I don't think we've yet had any extended scenes of Cooper Howard and Maximus together, right? Every time it's been a duo, it's been Lucy and Cooper Howard, even in season 1, right? So now we're going to get scenes, I suppose, for an episode or so of these two together and see how they mesh, right? We've sort of meshed together. Season 1 had this sort of situation where Max and Lucy were meshed together. I think this is the first time we've had this pairing, you know, plus a third wheel, plus Thaddeus as well. But regardless, the credits roll. We get our fun little graphic scene is Bud's office, Bud Askin's office, his little desk. He's a huge nerdlinger. He's got like, I believe, not Grognak. What's their name? What's the fictional superhero group name called? I forget. The like Action 5 or whatever they all are. You see some of the like comics and stuff there. You see more like Cooper Howard cowboy movie posters on the wall. You pan out through the R&D office. This one's not too buck wild as far as I know. The Vault-Tec R&D office. And then on the next episode, right, the little teaser for next time, we see Max, I assume, at gunpoint via Cooper Howard, being threatened with regards to the cold fusion diode. A very mysterious situation, which will probably lead them to Vegas and lead them to Lucy. We see as well pre-war Cooper probably giving over the diode to House, it seems. And we see someone in power armor, maybe it's Max, I don't know, fighting a Deathclaw on the strip, getting ready to throw a punch. I'm very curious if these Deathclaws are chipped as well. You know, it really feels that way. I would imagine these Deathclaws are fucking chipped. Anyway, we also finally close out with the next up on with stuff from Norm. Norm effectively finally getting into contact with Hank, which for a lot of the time now, you kind of forget that Norm is actually also Hank's son. You remember that, like, yeah, Norm is the brother to Lucy, but sometimes it's easy to forget that Norm is also Hank's son. And maybe Norm will be able to break Lucy from the spell, especially after whatever goes on with FEV and their vault. Very interesting stuff. I'm so curious how Norm is going to factor into this. But cool stuff all around. Somehow Norm gets access to, what do you call it? The communications. Maybe they do, like, they find out, they run his files or something, and they find out that Norm is like kind of the son of a VIP in the same way that Lucy is, and thus, what was his name who he got in a fight with and lost to? Ron? Maybe he does that, and that's how he gets in contact with him, right? We got a lot of things in play. I'm so curious how they're going to wrap up this season. It seems like this is very much going to continue on into the next one. I don't know. Are the last 1 or 2 episodes going to be extra long or something? Because I don't think they're going to be able to wrap all this up. Like I said before, I'm expecting at this point, like, Macaulay Culkin's character to show up again in a future episode. I'm very much expecting Justin Theroux's house will show up again. We got a lot of stuff at play. It's going to be weird seeing these characters continually crop up outside of Vegas, because I would imagine that they're not going to be in Vegas the whole damn time, right? I'm so curious how much season 3 will remain in the Mojave in Vegas. I don't know. Or if we're going to another location after this. It sure seems like the thinking is we're going to go from the West Coast to the East Coast and maybe end up in Washington, D.C. or something like that. I don't know. Either way, super curious about where it's going to go. We've got 2 episodes left in the season. Man, like I said at the start of this, the latter half has been amazing. I've been loving the latter half of the season. And I feel like that's very similar to how it was for season 1, that all the juicy exposition and plot focused stuff was in the latter half, and it was mostly just like getting everybody up to speed for the first half of the show. I don't know, though. I don't know. Because there were affecting things in, like, the opening scene. That was very good with Janie and Cooper at the birthday party. That was very cool. But ultimately, yeah, I guess that was sort of like setting the stage for a lot of people unfamiliar with Fallout. Yeah. Anyway, hopefully we get more cool stuff. The other 2 episodes are just as wonderful as these. Anyway, until next time, please take care of each other.